Hello everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Thank you very much for taking the time. My name is Max, and this is my podcast. Today we will enter chapter 13.6, which is called Economic Warfare in World War IV. Here we will explain the dark procedures that are happening behind the curtains and in secret, I might add, for the global monetary reset. It's a very interesting subject for people that are interested in such events, and it's important for you to know what's happening in order for you to protect yourself. Before we do that, we enter the usual housekeeping items here. The Amazon page where you can find the actual book. Please do support me there. Find our YouTube channel, like and subscribe, please. We need as many as possible. Our Rumble channel and our Brighteon channel. So please help me spread the word, like my videos, and send it to friends and the family. I will also guide you to my description below the video, where you can find my crypto wallets, if you were so inclined to make a donation to the author. Thank you very much indeed. Now, the one single thing that both parties in this war agree on is the fact that the current economic financial system needs a complete revamp or reset. The question we need to ask is what this reset will look like and how it eventually will affect us as a collective. And most importantly, what will trigger it. The dark forces that ought not be has made it abundantly clear what they are looking forward to, and they don't even hide it in any way. The hubris and the arrogance is off the scale in this regard. We have people like Klaus Schwab and his minion Yuval Noah Harari that are not even shy to describe the future that awaits us. Schwab even put it in writing in his book. This is not hidden in any way. We will own nothing and be happy, they say in their delusional speeches. Here we have a funny little meme in this regard with Klaus Schwab puppeteering Bojo, or Boris Johnson, and when the puppet breaks he said, "Get me another one," in his German Bond villain accent. If there ever was a Bond villain in the world, Klaus Schwab would definitely be it, as we have already discussed in the past. Central bank and digital currencies that can be controlled, turn off and on at the click of a mouse, and used as a weapon against a population that does not comply with the Great Reset. Tracking and monitoring of the subjects 24/7 with hefty penalties to anyone that does not conform to this new world order. Mandates, concentration camps, and roundup crews led by the UN, the WEF's private global army, is only too keen to get started and locking us all up. If you're reading this book and listening to me here today, you are indeed part of the resistance, and you know very well what I'm talking about. As things stand today, humanity appears to be waking up to this totalitarian fraud, and this is very encouraging indeed. The pandemic and the COVID farce helped us in this wake-up effort, and the awakening is occurring everywhere. The Khazarian mafia is finally realizing that they probably woke up the sleeping dragon. And it's not looking good for them and their psychotic plans for us. A great part of the World War IV scenario is centered on the economy, trade, exchanges, and financial freedom away from the centralized system that has enslaved us for so long. I have already described at length how the system looks like and who is behind it. So now I will discuss how humanity appears to be extracting themselves from this slavery system. I don't have a crystal ball, and as mentioned before, we are in the middle of it, as of this writing, and me speaking to you here today. And hopefully it will all be over very soon. Fingers crossed. The Q Alliance has given us signals since its inception, and one of the strongest indications is the one that I'm about to show you here, clearly telling us that gold will destroy the Fed. What you see on your screen now is post 2619 on December 12, 2018. And Anon asks Q, do we have the gold? Q replies, yes, gold shall destroy Fed. Q. So that's very interesting, isn't it? The first Trump term gave us many signals about what was to come, and we've seen prices of gold and silver growing in value dramatically the last few years. The money printers has been running on overdrive for years now, and the national debts globally are ballooning like never before. Pictures and memes like the one I show you here are just becoming all too common. This one is hilarious, obviously, because we have fake Joe Biden basically taking a selfie when the market collapses. This happened a lot during Biden's term. So this tells us a lot what the general sentiment is across our realm as we speak. We have learned to see through the propaganda and the lies. We know that they lie. And we know that any numbers provided by governments and experts are a farce. Reality looks nothing like they tell us in the news or in the media in general. Astute people have taken precautions against what appears to be a massive monetary collapse, stock market crash, and currency debasement. It has been building for years and cannot be stopped. Everybody knows what's coming. We just don't know when and what will be the exact trigger. What I show you here is an old tweet from Tavi Costa, who I follow, where he says gold has hit record levels in 6 different major currencies. Here is the graph of the euro, the British pound, the Chinese yuan, Australian dollars, Japanese yen, and Korean won. That is a hockey stick if you've ever seen one. As I speak to you here today, the US dollar has been added as well, so we are at the end of the cycle. Gold is beating all currencies of the world, including the reserve currency, the US dollar. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that gold has outperformed every single market imaginable in the last few years. The writing is on the wall, and yet they keep us gaslighting us with bullshit on a daily basis, trying to convince us to invest in even more money markets, bonds, and treasuries, so the bankers can enrich themselves even more on our dime. This collapse, however, is very different from the previous ones, and the very few that has positioned themselves and done the appropriate homework could stand to gain enormously in times ahead, just by betting against the system. I say that again, betting against the system. And if not to gain, at least to maintain their purchasing power against the hyperinflation that will hit us very soon. There's nothing stopping what is coming, and preparedness or awareness is everything in this case. This collapse is different because there exists a new monetary system that is decentralized and not tied to the almighty dollar, namely Bitcoin, on top of the commonly used gold and silver, which has a historical value. Gold has just been reclassified as a Tier 1 asset just a few years ago. Nobody mentioned this in the media. And this gave it monetary status equal to the dollar in terms of global utility. For the first time since 1972, when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, we now have an equal commodity that can compete and be exchanged fairly between nations. The only problem is the fact of its value is still measured in dollars and is still considered to be the world's reserve currency since Bretton Woods in 1944. In 1944, it was expected that the US would act responsibly in its leading role as a superpower and use its military power to secure and maintain peace across the realm. Well, Surprisingly, the exact opposite happened. The Khazarian mafia and their minions in government and its new military branch, the United Nations, assured that the stronghold on smaller and weaker nations were stronger than ever. The New World Order plan is very much alive, and the UN World Government is now only a whisker away from its final goal, which is absolute world control. The dollar has become weaponized, and sanctions has been their favorite weapon of choice. The SWIFT system is their control mechanism. I will now tell you a personal story. I have a personal friend that used to run a very successful business supplying airlines across the world with cabin equipment, things like plates, cutlery, napkins, and other things used in the catering on board. A very good and lucrative business that went on for many years. His headquarters was in Hong Kong, where I used to live, and he was banking with HSBC, which is what you usually do if you live in Hong Kong. One of his customers was Iranian Airlines, or Iran Air. As we know, the Americans, in their totalitarian usual ways, decided to sanction Iran years ago in a CIA-sponsored mind game that led Iran to be kicked off SWIFT and unable to transact with anyone. My friend had no love for sanctions and proceeded to do business with the Iranians anyway, until one day he received a call from HSBC that they would be debanked due to this sanction policy and not allowed to do banking any longer. On top of that, he had a week of time to settle his mortgage in Hong Kong with a bank, or they would take his house away. This is an example of the power of the almighty dollar, a disgusting display of tyranny that has been effective for decades now. When sanctions don't work, the media is released to smear, defame, and harass anyone who dares to stand up against the slave system. Such people are Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi, Assad, and Big Bad Putin. All because they reject the dollar dominance and spoke in terms of financial freedom and honest trade away from the Rotschild banking system imposed on them. We know very well what happened to them. The only one left, and the only one who will save the day, appears to be Putin. Putin has managed the impossible by turning around a failed and miserable state into a superpower in less than a generation. The same tactic as Hitler did back in the day. Now, this is not acceptable to the West, so the Putin bad rhetoric is now prevailing in media and politics, although the man has done absolutely nothing wrong except to care for his own people and asking the West to leave him alone. Well, the Khazarian mafia will not have any of it. My understanding is that the Q Alliance has supported and slowly rolled out alternative systems for a while now, Bitcoin being one of them. A decentralized system of exchange that is supposedly untraceable, even though I highly doubt the privacy of Bitcoin. And that allows people for the first time in history to store wealth in an asset that is unbankable, meaning it has some anonymity, just like precious metals. This technology has, as you surely know, led to a massive explosion of new cryptos being launched, some good and some very bad. Personally, I only value the ones that actually has a utility, either in terms of what the blockchain provides or as a store of actual value outside the system, such as Bitcoin. Cryptos are here to stay. It cannot be stopped. Just look at the market value of Bitcoin compared to other currencies to understand what a massive de-dollarization has already occurred. Not bad for an asset that has been around only since 2008. Here I show you a graph of all the countries, United States being on top, and Bitcoin being number 14. So Bitcoin's value here on this graph was already higher than several countries. This graph here is several years old. Here it says it's worth $733 billion, as opposed to the US on top with $18.1 trillion. Okay, This was years old. This is the value of Bitcoin today. The market cap of Bitcoin stands at $2.3 trillion. 2.3 trillion. Let's go back to the old graph here. That would put Bitcoin between United Kingdom and Italy. Bitcoin is worth more than Italy, okay? It's number 7. And that has happened only in a few years. Not bad for a commodity that was invented in 2008, huh? Is it a bubble? Absolutely yes. There's no doubt about that. It's way overvalued and overbought, and it's speculative, and it's being manipulated in the background. I'm aware of all those things. But it does provide an escape hatch, an escape plan from the banking system. You can put your assets here and watch them grow. You might also lose some. That is why diversification is so important, as I will describe to you moving on. Now, there are multiple stories surrounding Bitcoin and its creation. Was it CIA or DARPA? Probably yes. I wouldn't doubt that. They have used it to traffic funds under the radar for many, many years. At this point, it doesn't really matter. It's out there and it's being used daily, even for large transactions between nations. Now, they will never tell us this in order to pacify the Americans that will lose their marbles and start sanctioning the world if they feel threatened in any way. The picture I'm about to show you here is really, really interesting. Is there any truth to this? Satoshi Nakamoto is the supposed founder of Bitcoin. And we all know that that's not a real person, so how could it be? Who knows? And in this little page here on your screen, you have a tweet from Elon Musk. What does Musk know exactly that we don't? He posted this himself. Samsung, Toshiba, Nakamichi, and Motorola. Satoshi Nakamoto. Does that mean anything? I don't know, but it's intriguing, isn't it? A very good signal for us to understand its working is the halvings of BTC that occurs every 4 years. This is baked into the algorithm and cannot be stopped. It's inflationary in nature. I will not explain in detail what it means, but it's basically a control mechanism that reduces the rewards for the miners in order to slow down the process to 21 million coins mined. Once we reach 21 million, no new Bitcoin can ever be produced. Now, this is estimated to occur in 2032, but don't quote me on it. Bitcoin, thus, is really the perfect system as it cannot be printed into oblivion like fiat currencies. The fixed number of coins guarantees its value in time. So let's look at what has happened every time they had a halving so far. What you see on your screen is Bitcoin from 2012 until 2024. In 2012, they had a halving, and that halving produced an increase in value from $5 up to, it says 115 on the screen, but I believe it was closer probably to 300, let's say. Because if you look at the next graph, 2016, the next halving, occurred when Bitcoin was at $400. And then it skyrocketed up. The graph here says 7,600. Pretty remarkable. In 2020, when we were sitting at 7,600 or slightly below 8,000, there was another halving, bringing Bitcoin's price up to $60,000. $60,000 per coin. The last graph on the right is now. We have 2022 and 2025. Can we see a pattern emerging here? What is going to happen during the next halving, one might ask? This is all money exiting the system, going into Bitcoin. This is the reason why Bitcoin is now the 7th biggest commodity in this realm. All the money is escaping the banking system. Bitcoin's value will be enormous compared to fiat dollar very soon, and it will not go away. Speaking of sanctions, we have seen what happened since Russia initiated a special military operation in Ukraine a few years ago. The entire world went ballistic and called for sanctions. Russia knew this would happen and had prepared accordingly, making deals with its partners to ease the blow and allow the BRICS nations to operate outside the SWIFT system for the first time ever. And you know what? It worked brilliantly. Do we think that Trump's capitulation plan that we described in the last chapter had something to do with it? You bet it did. The West has been heavily punished for their actions. It has backfired in a spectacular manner. Germany's industrial base is collapsing. The EU is on the brink of absolute collapse, and still they try to gaslight the world to throw even more weapons and money at the problem, as if it would make any difference whatsoever. It's absolute madness. I'm ever more convinced that it was planned this way, and the West, in its arrogance, took the bait. Hook, line, and sinker. Either the alliance, together with BRICS, steered the entire thing, or they trapped the West into a situation that unfolded in a controlled manner in order to weaken them to the point that they could not fight back. Economically, due to the weakness and the debasement of their currency, and militarily, as they sent all their weapons, including the kitchen sink, to Ukraine just to be blown up as soon as they landed. It's the greatest military embarrassment that NATO has ever faced, and they still go on. It's ludicrous. Europe has been demilitarized completely. They have no defense to speak of anymore. If Russia wanted, they could take the European Union in a day or two. So much for the almighty NATO. It's an absolute joke. Let me show you some funny memes in this regard. Here we have Uncle Sam on the left being carried away in a straitjacket by China and Russia, screaming, sanctions, sanctions, sanctions. The people are waking up, aren't they? Here in the middle we have Uncle Sam pushing sanctions as a domino just to be squashed by inflation in the back end. On the left here it's beautiful. The whole world is sanctioning Russia. The whole world is highlighted in yellow. Do you see what I mean? If that's the entire world, I'm happy to be living where I am, far away from these nutcases. This one is my absolute favorite. Uncle Sam thinking he's strangling Putin, while Putin is holding him by the balls. It says oil and gas here. Isn't that true? So yes, the failure is absolute, and the Khazaria Mafia plan has failed spectacularly. This whole disaster will go down in history as the biggest miscalculation ever made in my view. And if I could see it coming, how could they not? It is my absolute contention that the alliance consisting of Trump, Modi, Xi and Putin has been making large moves for many years in preparation for the unavoidable collapse. They wanted the reset to be done their way, far away from the World Economic Forum and the globalist Khazarian mafia puppets currently in charge. This is why BRICS was created quietly in the background. When the sanctions hit Russia, which they knew would come, Russia and China became the de facto leaders in the East, selling the BRICS idea to many other nations and putting the dollar under enormous pressure. They have promised a new exchange currency called the unit. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I hear. Which will supposedly be backed 40% by gold and 60% by member nations' currencies. It will run on the blockchain, thus completely bypassing the antiquated SWIFT system that will eventually die out. On the picture here that I will show you, it describes the current situation very well. The BRICS nations are wielding enormous power at present, and the West is utterly defenseless against it. The only thing to do is to join. It's a masterpiece in geopolitics, the biggest event in history, and we are watching it unfold before our eyes. The world on the other side will never be the same again, and that, my friends, is a very good thing. BRICS already controls the Suez Canal. If you look at the map here, you will understand why this is so enormously important. Very soon, Malaysia enters, which has already happened, and Indonesia after that. At that point, BRICS controls the Malacca Strait as well. They control global trade from east to west. Now this is geopolitical power. Remember when we spoke before about the American collapse and how the Navy doesn't matter anymore? Well, this is it. This trade strangulation is the end of the West's hegemony in the East. The West markets can easily be cut off like never before, and no American warships will help them this time around. If we go even further and we look at oil production of the individual nations that I show you here, and how many of these are BRICS members, you start to understand that the West is absolutely cornered, especially in the much coveted oil trade. The nations you see here, you have Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the UAE, Malaysia is indicated, Indonesia is indicated. This is a big, big deal. The only country here that has more oil is Venezuela, which is about to be invaded by the United States, by the way, just as we speak. I wonder why that is, right? Trump did the right thing with his drill baby drill campaign during his presidency. A very smart move. And now, to be devastating for them as the Biden clown show put an end to it and became dependent on external oil once more. It's really too stupid to be stupid, as they say. I believe that the West will eventually be allowed into the group, BRICS that is, but with some serious reforms before then. Europe, the US and the English-speaking countries will have to suffer a massive humbling experience before they will even be allowed anywhere close to BRICS. At that point, maybe something like this would be needed in order to move forward. I don't know, but I will take a first row seat for that show for sure. Here it says on the screen, during a 1720 financial crisis, British Parliament debated a resolution for bankers to be sewn into sacks with snakes and dumped in the Thames. I would watch that spectacle, I really would. So that is what will need to happen before the West will even be allowed to enter BRICS. Now, be under no illusions that this will not happen, one way or the other. I have plenty of arguments with friends in banking that keep telling me that this will never happen in their lifetimes, and I keep reminding them that just because you grew up and operated in one system that you know is corrupt and evil, that system cannot be dismantled. This has happened many times before. I have mentioned the failed currencies in a previous part of this podcast. So saying never in my lifetime is absurd. Just because you've never seen it doesn't make it possible. In my opinion, people who speak in these terms are the ones guaranteed to lose their socks in the coming financial events on the horizon. As of this writing, the debt burden is absolutely staggering. The losses of the banks are astronomical. The situation is absolutely unsalvageable. The collapse that is expected to occur will make 2008 look like a picnic in the park. It will be the greatest collapse in recorded history, and the media completely ignores it. Astonishing to say the least. What you see on your screen here is the unrealized gains or losses on investment securities. So gains is top of the chart, losses is the bottom of the chart. The 0 point line in the middle. Look at 2008 in the beginning of the graph. That was the big 2008 financial collapse and the losses that incurred. Look at what happened after 2021. We are now magnitudes worse than 2008 already, and the system hasn't collapsed yet. Or has it? I don't know. Looking at gold and silver prices increasing should give you a hint. So it's absolutely staggering. It's a miracle that we're still using currency in any way at this point. So what to look forward to? Well, absolute panic, of course. The total shutdown of all markets for a while, if ever to even open again, I cannot say. It will probably be the largest transfer of wealth in history. Some of it to the elites, for sure, the ones who have seen it coming, but also to the common man like you and me, this time around. One of the reasons that I'm writing and speaking this is for one purpose, is to help readers and listeners in understanding what can be done in this case in terms of asset and wealth protection for the individual. There will be a new system on the other side of this. And as far as I can tell, it has already been planned and implemented in the background by the Alliance. The old Rotschild system has already died since years ago. My contention is it died already in 2008. And what we're witnessing now is just a pantomime of sorts. The money printing itself gives it away, in my view. The Fed is adding $1 trillion to the national debt every 100 days. I just recently discovered that the 100 days has now become 65 days, so it's accelerating. $1 trillion every 65 days are added to the national debt. Let that sink in, folks. The interest on this debt is larger than the budget of the Pentagon on a yearly basis. It can never be paid back. Both sides of this war are acutely aware of this. The Alliance is perfectly happy to let the printers purr until it all collapses. It just helps the effort, actually. On the other side will be a new currency, a new system that will most likely not even involve third-party banks. There will be a currency that is gold and asset-backed, like the BRICS unit. Here is a picture of the new US dollars that is floating around. Is it real? Maybe. How could I possibly know? But it's exciting nonetheless. This looks like beautiful banknotes to me. I wouldn't mind to hold those, that's for sure. My great hope that we will not have scenes like this, what I'm about to show you, anymore. And we gotta have a laugh at this because it's hilarious. This is the picture you make when you're welcome to the world and then told that your share of the national debt is 259K. Isn't that something? No wonder children are depressed. The actions of the central banks give it away even more clearly for those with eyes to see. They have been purchasing gold like never before. This is a well-known fact. So the advice I can give you is do as they do. Don't do as they say. Secure yourself with physical precious metals in your own possession, not paper contract and promissory note, not ETFs and other paper derivatives that can disappear. I'm talking about hold it and own it. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm just telling you what I think. Once all of this is over, these assets could have multiplied in value, and when, not if, the new gold and asset-backed currency emerges, you can sell it back with a massive profit. This graph I'm showing you here tells the story. This is the central bank's gold consumption quarterly. This graph goes only until 2023. Okay, it's an old graph. Today, this graph would break the screen. It has tripled or quadrupled at least. Okay, so the central banks are accumulating gold while telling everybody that gold is an old relic and we should all buy stocks and bonds. So why not do as the central banks are doing? Preserve the wealth, right? Here I show you A good example of what inflation looks like. On the left side, we have 1 ounce gold coin in 1933. Sorry, on the right side, I'm an idiot. 1933, $20.67. That's how much cash it took to buy a US gold coin. In 2020, on the left side, 1 ounce gold coin is $1,770. Now this is a visual representation for you of what currency debasement looks like. It's funny because this picture is a 2020 picture, right? $1,770. Well, today in 2025, just 5 years later, gold is at $4,000 plus. It's 4 times more than what you see on your screen today. That is the reality of the situation, ladies and gentlemen. And if you don't get on board, you will be left behind. The train has already left the station. Here I will show you a real bill passing through Congress in the US. This bill says HR 9157 to define the dollar as a fixed weight of gold and for other purposes. Is this just a pipe dream, or could this actually become reality? Who am I to say, but I find it interesting that this is floating in Congress, that they want to go back to a supposed gold standard for the US dollar. That would be a good thing. Now, what is even more exciting than gold is my favorite commodity, namely silver. The story of silver is something that I have followed for years, and I am a huge silver bug. Silver is, in mine and many other experts' opinion, the most undervalued commodity in our realm right now. Nothing else even comes close. As gold has had a stellar rise to its all-time highs, silver has lagged behind enormously. So much, in fact, that the scam is now visible for everybody to see. You see, silver is the bank killer. I'm not kidding. The silver market is very small and controlled. All the banks are in on it, especially JP Morgan, Citibank, HSBC, of course, and lately in a massive way, Bank of America. Just a couple of years ago, JP Morgan paid the largest penalty in history of precious metals, $980 million. JP Morgan's traders got caught manipulating the market through messaging services such as WhatsApp and such. Dumbasses. What did JP Morgan do? They just turned around and presented a profit of $1 billion that year and covered the penalty and just went on like nothing ever happened. Who went to jail? Nobody, as usual. Now this did, however, lead to an interesting development. JP Morgan was historically the custodian to the ETF silver markets globally, and they were not allowed to do that anymore. So they called their friends at Bank of America and leased them 1.5 billion ounces of silver to play with in order to keep the price suppression going a while longer. Turns out the scam seems to be getting out of control now. Every single $1 rise of silver will cost Bank of America $800 million. That is unsustainable. They are naked short without any security whatsoever. It's an absolute free-fall, and they have no other choice than to keep the charade going. Now the scheme consists of flooding the market daily with silver paper contracts. This silver does not exist physically, but it's just being traded between the 4 major players mentioned above, or before, coordinated between continents every single day of the year. The physical silver was usually stored in London at the LBMA and the COMEX, also called Crimex in my circles. COMEX is the only marketplace where a silver buyer can take physical delivery of the silver contracts. The alliance and its partners, China and India mainly, has proceeded to drain the market of physical, and there's nothing supporting the paper anymore. We are now in failure to deliver mode, right now as we speak. On top of that, China has started the Shanghai Gold and Silver Exchange under the Shanghai Cooperation Collaboration Scheme, which is a part of BRICS, to base and support with actual assets the new BRICS currency that is supposedly coming out soon. In Shanghai, the purchase of gold and silver prices are higher than in London. So where do you think the metal flows naturally? To Shanghai, of course. This plan has been going on for a few years now, and it's only now coming to the surface in a big way. Russia has also just announced that they will plan to purchase large quantities of silver to secure their currency. Where is that silver coming from? Well, the London vaults. So this paper manipulation is indeed coming to an end, because when they fail to deliver on their contracts, the entire scheme will be exposed for everybody to see. The yearly production in the realm of silver is minute. It's around 800 million ounces per year. The COMEX in London trades 1.5 billion ounces on some days. Not years, note, days. Where is that silver? Well, it doesn't exist. It's getting absurd. If you ever thought gold was a good investment, please look into the silver trade, I beg you. The amount of percentage that the silver will increase in value will absolutely dwarf the price of gold. Another astonishing fact to consider in this case is the gold to silver ratio, or the GSR. This should stimulate anybody to jump on the silver train very quickly. I will show it to you here. The ratio is a description of the value of the metal compared to gold. The historical average is 15 to 1, which means 15 ounces of silver buys 1 ounce of gold. Today, it's hovering around 85, and it went as high as 120 to 1 a couple of years ago. Considering that it comes out of the ground at a ratio of 7 to 1, which means 8 ounces of silver for every ounce of gold mined, the price should reflect that, one would believe. This is where the manipulation from the bankers becomes crystal clear and obvious. This image you see on your screen now describes the ratio for as long as it has been recorded. So I wonder, are you still in doubt here? On your screen you will see the gold-silver ratio from 3200 BC. You have 2.5, 9, 6, 2, 10, 12, 11, 10. The last one was 15 to 1 between 1700 and 1720. 15 to 1. We are today at 85 to 1. So if silver would go back at least to normal levels at 15 to 1, that is an astronomical increase in silver's value. That's why I love silver. Don't listen to the pundits on TV and the other experts that are all trying to deceive you and being paid to do so. Follow your instinct, study, and invest wisely in the assets that feel right for you. There is a lot to learn and not much time left before it's too late. Here I will show you 2 little memes in this regard, which are really cute. They can't print more silver. They can print another $1 trillion every 100 days, but they can't print more silver. Isn't that a fact? On the right we have the global economy, the Titanic sinking, and the guy in a little boat that says silver. That's a good description for what's about to happen. Moving on, the new system will have to include some kind of debt jubilee. An economic system where debt is considered an asset is a one-way street to oblivion. It cannot succeed long term, and yet, here we are. An idea that has been floating around for years that I will share with you here is the NESARA-GESARA plan. It's a lovely story and very intriguing to say the least, but I have no way of knowing how real this really is. It might just be a utopian hallucination as far as I can tell. It includes a reset of massive proportion in every aspect of society. And it could actually work if implemented. Here I will show you what this plan actually includes. Now I'm not the one to say that this is the absolute truth, but I can absolutely subscribe to most of it. And I do believe that the Alliance will implement some points of this plan going forward, as they do make a lot of sense. The main one to start with is a massive debt jubilee, which would make sense as the debt amassed never even existed in the first place. It's only funny money, right? That, followed by a non-taxation policy, would already change our lives dramatically overnight. There's very serious discussions about this going on right now, and if this comes true, it would be a blessing for us all. If they then implement the entire plan in various phases moving on, I would be absolutely on board with that. Furthermore, Trump himself is floating the idea of a complete abolition of income tax as we speak. This is very much in line with this plan, so it's a very, very interesting time. Now this is the NESARA plan, National Economic Security and Reformations Act. The GESARA plan would be the same thing, but on a global level. I don't like the word global, but here we are. I will read it out for you, point by point. Forgives credit card, mortgage and other bank debt due to illegal banking and government activities. Abolishes income tax. Abolishes IRS. Creates flat rate non-essential, new items only sales tax revenue for government. We spoke about that before, didn't we? Increases benefit to senior citizens. Returns constitutional law. We spoke about that too. Establishes new presidential and congressional elections within 120 days after NESARA's announcement. Monitors elections and prevents illegal election activities or special interest groups. Wouldn't that be nice? Creates new US Treasury currency backed by gold, silver and platinum precious metals. Returns constitutional law to all courts and legal matters. Initiates the US Treasury bank system in alignment with constitutional law. Eliminates the Federal Reserve System, that's the big one. Restores financial privacy. That's what Bitcoin does. Retains all judges and attorneys in constitutional law. We spoke about that too. Ceases all aggressive US government military actions worldwide. Establishes peace throughout the world. Initiates worldwide prosperity distribution of vast wealth, which has been accumulating for decades. That would also be very interesting. Didn't we speak about that in previous chapters? Releases enormous sums of money for humanitarian purposes. Enables the release of new technologies such as alternative energy devices. This supposedly was passed and signed into law in the year 2000. I've heard conspiracy theorists actually saying that they forced Bill Clinton to sign this into law at gunpoint by the US military. But this plan or this law has never been acted upon. Is that true? I have no way to say, but I find it intriguing nonetheless. So said all that, we don't really know what's coming, except the unavoidable crash. I'm not a financial advisor in any way, shape or form, but I can provide some suggestions in terms of what I am doing for myself and my family. To start with, we have spread our assets in various places, or assets, diversifying as much as physically possible. Things we got rid of a long time ago. Number 1, stocks and bonds. Sell and cash in, even at a loss. Number 2, pension plan linked to the stock market. Sell and cash in. Number 3, money in the bank. Run the bank. Get it out in cash. If there are any paper assets on paper alone, switch immediately to hard assets such as gold, silver, or Bitcoin. Immediately. This way, when hell breaks loose, at least the chances of losing everything decreases. Mind you, everybody will incur a loss of some kind. The trick is to limit the damage at this point and hope there is something to come back to on the other side. Even the historically sold real estate market is not safe under these conditions. The losses in real estate will and has to be significant. I will leave you here with some fun memes to lighten the mood after all this doom and gloom. Keep your spirits up. It will be rough, but we will get through this as a collective. I am absolutely certain of this. Let me show you some funny memes here. Here we have a meeting at CNN. How do we turn it around? Bash Trump harder. Go further left. And this guy says, report the truth. And obviously gets thrown out of a window. We have this beautiful meme of the two lovers on the hill. I would do anything for you. Stop buying silver. And he obviously kicks her down from the hill. I concur. We have this beautiful meme here. CNN Business says, who is to blame for inflation? It's complicated. Yeah, right. Reed Cooley says, no, it literally isn't. I'll give you a hint. It starts with federal and ends with reserve. Here we have breaking. NASA has discovered a supermassive black hole inside its facilities with a fountain of money. We have this beautiful one here. On the left, I don't understand. This worked for years. Here you have the horse has been chasing the carrot forever, finally passing out and dying. Isn't that just true? The last one on the right here is about bricks, which I adore. I really adore this meme. Uncle Sam sitting at the bar. Seems you run up quite a tab, monsieur. I'll pass you off to my new associate to help you with the payment. Here we have the bouncer with a beautiful tattoo that says bricks on it. Isn't that something? So said all that, ladies and gentlemen, today we don't play any videos. This was only graphs and pictures. And my throat is giving up. So I will see you on the next chapter called 13.7, where we start to discuss the proxy war in Ukraine and what that entails to everybody. I hope you're all well. I hope you will follow me there. And said that, max out, and peace to you all.